Good morning and welcome to Korea Today, live from Seoul.
President Park Geun-hye is now in Bali, Indonesia, to attend the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum that kicks off today. She is slated to have one-on-ones with the leaders of China, Canada, Peru, and Mexico later today.
An old public document that can prove Japan's wartime atrocities was made available by the National Archives of Japan. This and more coming up in the headlines.
And a new revision could free up financial companies here in Korea on their overseas business. We'll tell you more on In Print.
Scientists blend hundreds of faces together to reveal the representative women's faces in 41 different countries. Please stay tuned for more on Hot Clicks.
And former diplomats to African and Latin American countries have come together to find ways to customize overseas aid to developing countries. We meet the head of the organization. How much can your looks or first impression determine your future? Many job seekers in Korea believe it's enough for them to make some changes to alter their faces. And I mean literally. On Monday, October 7th, 2013.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
Good Monday morning, everyone. Hope you had a great weekend, but I'm sure some of you lost sleep due to the buzzing sound of mosquitoes. But it looks like you'll be able to get a heads up from the Seoul City government starting today.
Oh, there it is, right there. That's right. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that, especially during the summer months if you're living in Korea, in Seoul especially. In Seoul, they're going to trial run and implement a trial system, a 4-stage warning system that gathers the information on temperature as well as humidity and other factors that will determine how many mosquitoes will be in that region. And they'll also provide tips on how you can cope with the situation as well.
That's right. It's going to be a 4-stage indicator. The first stage will be comfortable. Stage 2 will be attention. Stage 3 will be warning. And stage 4 will be unpleasant. But I think it should be forget about sleeping, right?
That's right.
Stage 4 is when you know
That's when it's
the
really
mosquitoes
bad. You must
right.
head indoors or carry some repellent with you. It'll go for a 1-month trial run, and then once that is figured out, they'll fix the bugs and the kinks in the system and also implement it starting in April because mosquito season is almost over pretty much.
That's right. All right, we'll begin Korea Today on this Monday morning with a look at the day's headlines.
President Park Geun-hye is in Bali, Indonesia as part of her 8-day trip to the Southeast Asian region. Addressing over 1,000 business leaders from the region on Sunday, the president stressed that innovation is the only source of sustainable growth in the world economy. And on Monday, she will take part in the first session of the summit on strengthening the multilateral trading system in the Asia-Pacific region.
The president will emphasize extending measures that prevent trade protectionism and also urge retracting existing regulations that hinder free trade.
On the sidelines of the 2-day summit, President Park is scheduled to hold bilateral talks with the leaders of 4 of the participating countries, as you heard, namely China, Canada, Mexico, and Peru. After that, the president will head to Brunei on Wednesday to attend a series of summit meetings with the ASEAN leaders to promote and strengthen Seoul's economic ties with the region. Prosecutors will start summoning officials from the former progressive Roh Moo-hyun administration to find out why the transcript of the 2007 Inter-Korean Summit talks was never transferred to the state archives. The head of the presidential archives at that time, Im Sang-kyung, is the first person on the list to be questioned this Monday. Other possible figures to be summoned include Kim Yongsu, who helped establish a duplicate of the electronic archive system used at that time called Ji-won in Pongha Village, where late President Roh stayed after his term ended. The prosecution is said to be focusing on finding out whether the orders not to file the transcript came from the late president himself. The transcript in question has been a contentious political issue ever since the ruling party claimed that the former liberal president had conceded to Pyongyang by giving up the de facto maritime border in the West Sea during his summit talks with then North Korean leader Kim Jong-il. A document proving Japan had forcefully brought women into wartime sexual slavery has been unveiled. Japan's Kyodo News says this old public document shows the Japanese military during World War II coerced 35 Dutch women into sexual slavery in Indonesia. The more than 500-page document was made available from last month to this past Sunday by the National Archives of Japan upon a request by a Japanese civic organization. Now, what the document contains goes against the current Shinzo Abe administration's stance on the sex slave issue. The Abe cabinet insists there is no official evidence to prove the victims were forced to provide sexual services. Despite the government's efforts to stabilize the country's jeonse market, prices have been on a steady increase for the past 58 weeks, and the trend will likely continue for the time being, according to experts. Now, jeonse is a real estate system in Korea where instead of paying rent, tenants pay a lump sum less than the property's full price as a down payment.
The rate of increase has been less rapid in general after the Chuseok holiday, but because there aren't many houses for sale on the market, we're expecting the trend to continue for long enough to set a new record.
The KB Kookmin property department says the price of jeonse in Seoul jumped 0.35% last week compared to the week before, while prices in the metropolitan area showed a larger increase rate at 0.42%. The longest the nation saw the jeonse prices rise was from 2009 to early 2010, when the rate was on an upward trend for 60 full weeks.
And good morning, everyone. It truly is a mixed bag on the front pages this Monday. We'll flip through the stories quickly and begin with a look at 조선일보. Its front page image shows President Park Geun-hye giving a keynote speech at the APEC CEO Summit in Bali, Indonesia, paired with U.S. President Barack Obama, who will not attend the summit, citing his government's ongoing shutdown. Now, the headline underneath the image reads, "Growing Further Apart, Park Geun-hye's Japan, Obama's Japan." And its News and Views lead proposes there is growing concern the two world leaders could be on a collision course based on their positions on Japan. Days after President Park told U.S. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel that Tokyo was failing to build trust with Seoul given its regressive remarks, he and Secretary of State John Kerry was seen expressing support for Japan's revision of its right of collective self-defense, which, in President Park's point of view, was tantamount to the U.S. giving permission to Japan to become a country that can wage war again. For these reasons, some inside and outside the presidential office see choppy waters ahead for the leaders of the two allied nations. And scooting right over to 동아일보, its front page image shows a scene out of a hazy Beijing. You can barely make out the buildings there as its concentration of fine particulate matter recorded some 12 times the exposure limit recommended by the World Health Organization over the weekend. Its image title reads, "Beijing Smog Warning, LPGA Golfers Also Cough, cough." And you can see some of those athletes donning masks during their practice run. And this is the first time that China is hosting an LPGA event. All right, scooting right over to 중앙일보 next. Its top headline showcases its latest college ranking just released by the newspaper in honor of its 48th year in circulation, which came out like this. POSTECH, KAIST, Seongyungwan University, Korea University, and tied in fifth place is Seoul National University and Yonsei University. Now, the basis for its ranking, it ranked highest faculty research, then study environment, followed by reputation, social contribution, and internationalization. All right, and we'll go ahead and scoot on over to our business newspaper for today. Made Business newspaper's main headline reads, "Banks remove shackles to the world, to the world." And the article goes on to explain that the Financial Services Commission will consider later this month a regulation revision that would allow local finance companies to offer universal banking services overseas. Currently, they are bound by their financial institution category, but the change would allow them to offer not only banking services, but also securities and insurance, much like their European counterparts who already offer such one-stop services in Asia. And the inserted graph shows the proportion of profits earned from overseas for named countries' top 3 banks. For example, Switzerland sees some 66.3% of its income from outside. Japan 20.7%, while Korea comes in last here at 1.4%. Now, the FSC's Secretary General Ko Seung-bum said the government's quote-unquote Finance Vision 1010 Value Up plan aims to raise the financial industry's added value from the current 7% to 10% in the next 10 years, while an unnamed FSC official tells the paper it would be difficult to expect an energized overseas expansion without such considerations from the government. And with that, we'll wrap your look at what's in print on this Monday. Next up are your closing numbers from Friday's market action.
The weather this past weekend was absolutely beautiful, but I know a typhoon is approaching us, right?
That's right. A typhoon may be affecting our coastal areas in the southern tip as well as parts of the mountainous regions as well. But that's coming up later on. But for now, we'll get a look at today's weather and also some of the rain that this typhoon might bring with Dami.
Good morning, Dami.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm reporting live from Yongin, Gyeonggi Province. And yes, over the weekend we saw beautiful, picture-perfect weather, but conditions this week look a bit different. Now, on this first Monday of October, we're starting out with mostly cloudy skies and temperatures at 19 degrees Celsius. It looks like here in the central regions, also some areas over in the East Coast, there are places receiving sporadic showers this morning, so you may want to bring your umbrellas just in case. Now, the entire nation will be under the influence of Typhoon Danas, and we'll be seeing pretty hard rain. Later in the evening, it'll start out down in Jeju Island, and then starting tomorrow, here in the central regions, we will also be seeing heavy rain. Now, it looks like these conditions are going to continue, but here in the central regions, also north and south, Jeolla Province and Jeju Island, the rain will cease tomorrow evening, and then the rain will stop around the day after tomorrow for the rest of the peninsula. Now, this rain is going to be pretty hard, so prepare yourselves for anything that might happen, any damage in the future, such as landslides or flooding. Okay, let's now get a check on the weather around Korea. Seoul will reach up to 23 degrees, Daejeon at 26, Daegu with highs at mid-20s, Gangneung will be the coolest at 21, while Busan and Jeju both with highs at 26 degrees. That's all I have for the weather forecast. I'll be back in the latter half.
And it is 13 minutes past the hour on Korea Today. And Saturday, the 5th, was Korean Day, legally established to instill pride as well as cultural heritage in overseas Koreans.
This year marked the 7th anniversary of this year since it was first established in the year 2007. And as the number of Koreans living abroad continues to rise, this day is becoming all the more significant and important.
That's right. So Korea Today visited a special event that was going on over the weekend at the COEX, and we'll take a look at this. Many overseas Koreans attended this and celebrated Korean Day. At the COEX in the Gangnam district of Seoul, a Korean Day event was held to celebrate Korean Day for the 7.2 million Koreans living abroad.
Our overseas Korean communities are all Korea's important assets as they work to expand their mother country's economic scope. And so we hope this Korean Day will help those living in Korea to appreciate and recognize the importance of Koreans living abroad, as well as instill more confidence and pride in overseas Koreans.
At this event, co-hosted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Overseas Korean Foundation, there were some 1,000 in attendance, including the Prime Minister, lawmakers, as well as overseas Koreans.
Up until this day, overseas Korean communities served as Korea's base to lay bridges to connect their resident countries and Korea. The South Korean government will continue to work with our international communities to protect the rights and interests of our overseas Koreans so they may maintain close relationships with Korea.
Koreans living in various parts of the world have become important assets and influences in the global community with their hard work and perseverance.
I will continue to work hard as a member of the overseas Korean community, especially to figure out how the older generation can help the young Koreans living abroad to have confidence and pride in their ethnicity.
This year marks the 15th anniversary of the Korean Festival. In 1998, it started off as a simple arts and culture event for overseas Koreans, but today it leads the way in prompting the skills and talent of many Korean artists. This year, Korea's representative folk song, Arirang, was designated as the main theme of the festival.
Our folk song Arirang embraces the joys and sorrows of the Korean people because many Koreans who are forced to leave their home country sang Arirang. And still this song lives on to unite all overseas Korean communities in the world.
Arirang over the years continues to be passed down and remade, since anyone can easily sing along with the song's catchy chorus. Meanwhile, head of the performance, Kim Ganaji is another overseas Korean, considered one of Kazakhstan's best guitarists. And this time, he will be on stage with his wife and children, who are also musicians. These well-known musicians have special reasons for participating in this meaningful Korean festival.
When I first heard the song Arirang, I was moved yet sad, and so I started to perform the traditional song and included a little bit of our own color and individuality. I'm so glad I was able to visit Korea and take part in the festival.
Finally, the long-awaited performance begins, and the festival is filled with the talent and passion of Korean musicians from home and abroad.
When I sing Arirang, although I'm in a foreign country, I feel like I can almost see my hometown in front of me. I think Arirang is a special, powerful song that is always with us through the good and bad.
It's a great performance, really great performance. Arirang is well known all over the world and well known in Russia, so I enjoyed the performance.
The song Arirang brought Koreans home and abroad together as they all sang along in unison, celebrating the spirit of their motherland.
And still ahead, the scale of Korea's official development assistance is growing by the year. To accommodate these increasing demands, a group of former diplomats have opened their doors to provide advice for these aid programs. We meet the man who leads this project.
And as we mentioned at the top of our headlines and the top of our programs, President Park Geun-hye is currently in Indonesia, in Bali, Indonesia, to attend the 21st APEC summit.
After the APEC summit, she will travel to Brunei to attend a host of annual forums in that country. But she will return to Indonesia on Thursday for a 3-day state visit at the invitation of her Indonesian press counterpart, Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono.
And this year marks the 40th anniversary of diplomatic ties between Korea and Indonesia, and the two countries have been boosting efforts for more cooperative exchanges as well. We'll take a look at the finer details in this next report.
On September 25th, when President Park Geun-hye met with Indonesian economic delegation, she expressed her happiness that Korea would be an integral part in Indonesia's master plan for economic development. She also expressed high hopes for establishing a comprehensive economic partnership agreement between the two countries. Indonesia, an archipelago comprised of the largest number of islands in the world, is also the fourth most populous nation filled with abundant natural resources. Out of the ASEAN member states, Indonesia, along with Singapore, has the largest amount of investment and trade from Korea, reaching up to $30 billion in 2012. As Korea-Indonesia exchanges have increased in quality and quantity, recently, cultural exchanges between the two nations have also expanded. Here in Cheongdam-dong, dubbed the capital of Korea's haute couture culture district, an art exhibition featuring Indonesian artist Eko Nugroho's work is on display. Eko Nugroho gained worldwide fame by boldly translating Indonesia's social and political issues into his pieces.
As Indonesia is a country with diverse cultural, political, and social backgrounds, many notable artists like Eko Nugroho have become popular. With Nugroho's exhibition, our gallery hopes to exhibit more pieces by such internationally acclaimed artists.
And that's not all. To celebrate Korea-Indonesia's 40 years of diplomatic ties, for the first time, an Indonesian film festival was held in Korea. Along with Korean celebrities, many notable cultural and political figures from both Korea and Indonesia took part in the opening ceremony.
In Indonesia, the Korean wave has already captured the heart of many, and movies and TV dramas jointly produced by the two countries are extremely popular. We hope that such avid exchanges will continue to further improve the cultural industry in both nations.
CJ Group, who hosted the film festival, has actually reaped much business success in Indonesia. Since 1988, CJ Group has invested close to $800 million in various sectors and have successfully won the hearts of its local Indonesian consumers. Especially Korea's bakery franchise Tout Le Jour, since opening up its first store in Indonesia back in December of 2011. A total of 13 shops have been set up in just 20 months. This is the fastest growth in bakery shop numbers compared to the 7 countries Tout Le Jour has entered so far.
I come here often because I like the taste of the clean and fresh ingredients that are used in the products, and the store looks very well organized and sophisticated.
Indonesia is focused on bringing in more foreign investors to boost its economy, and in return, Korean companies have either already entered the Indonesian market or are optimistically reviewing to do so. Korea's major steel company, POSCO, is scheduled to open its steel mill, capable of making 3 million tons of steel products a year in Indonesia. While just this past September, Hankuk Tire newly opened up a factory that's capable of producing 6 million tires a year. Following suit, other Korean companies that have seen Indonesia's high growth potential are also looking into invest and establish businesses in the island nation. Indonesia is one of ASEAN's largest economies and a member of the G20. That's why many are keeping their eyes and ears close to see what kind of developments and improvements will come about from President Park Geun-hye's state visit to Indonesia.
This is President Park's second trip to Southeast Asia following her trip to Vietnam. And ASEAN is becoming an increasingly important market for South Korea. The region is number one investment destination for South Korea. And it's also the second largest trading partner for Korea, with bilateral trade reaching some $131 billion US dollars.
Speaking of trade, I remember there were speculations that the president was going to make an announcement that Korea will join the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or the TPP, the multilateral trade deal in the Asia-Pacific region, at some point during her trip, but so far no news coming out from Indonesia.
Well, if there is any, we'll be sure to report it as well. But this is a very jam-packed trip for her. 3 regional summits in Brunei, as well as a state visit back in Indonesia. We'll be looking forward to reporting more on this matter. All right, still ahead on Korea Today, job hunting season is here, and there are some, and I stress the word some, people who will go to great lengths. Now, there comes an increase in ambitious job seekers looking for that extra help in changing their first impressions. Many believe it's not just about the qualifications, but also the looks that can help them land a job.
Look, makes your head tilt a little
That's
bit.
right.
I was like,
I really wanted to answer that. I stressed the word some there. Not many, but some, right? Okay, late last month, Korea's Ministry of Strategy and Finance released the next year's budget plan, which includes an emphasis as well as increased government spending on public diplomacy as well as the overseas development assistance. Now, this comes as part of the government's drive to increase the country's profile and improve diplomatic relations with other countries.
And a group of more than 30 ambassadors to underdeveloped countries have come together to establish a consulting center to provide their expertise and their local networks and put it into better use. And we meet with the president of this organization, Mr. Lee Byung-guk, to learn more about the center's goals. Take a look.
Earlier this month, public officials from 10 Asian countries visited Korea to learn more about diplomacy and trade through the Colombo Plan training program at the Korea Global Development Consulting Center.
Hello, nice. Pakistan. I served Pakistan Karachi before you were born.
The KGDC is where various official development assistance programs for developing countries are introduced and assessed. Currently, there are more than 100 consulting firms similar to that of KGDC in Korea, but what makes this center different from others?
I had several meetings with former diplomats before KGDC inaugurated and continue to meet with each other. Most of them are the retired Korean diplomats who have served in the developing countries of Africa and the Latin Americas as ambassadors. They are indeed KGDC's biggest asset, since they have first-hand experience in their respective host countries and have forged personal ties with local officials. Now, we retired ambassadors and retired attachés do work together to give customized advice so that we can cater Korea's ODA to the recipient country's needs.
The scale of Korea's ODA to developing countries has been growing. It's expected to reach $3 million in 2015. It's not only the increase in quantity, but also the quality that's important, and many emphasize the need to provide customized assistance.
One-shot or standalone project or freestanding technical cooperation, all are no longer workable. Korean NGO planted mango trees in South Sudan, the newly born and extremely poor country. I think it is an example of localized and long-term assistance. If we buy them mangoes, it's just a one-shot or freestanding assistance. But helping them plant the trees is much better, because the trees planted will feed them for a lifetime. Locally, as many procedures as possible can make long-term and sustainable development possible.
Currently, most of Korea's ODA goes to countries in Asia, but in the near future, the percentage that goes to Africa is expected to increase. Despite this, Mr. Ri, who was the former Consul General to Kenya and Ambassador to Sudan, says more needs to be done.
The Korean government has increased the overall amount of ODA to Africa. Despite these initiatives, our aid budget is much smaller than that of other generous donors like the US, Japan, and China. It is known that the major countries, especially China, are providing aid to secure natural resources. We must be sincere in providing more programs to Africa.
Korea was once a poor, war-torn, and underdeveloped country that is now a donor country in the OECD and the 24th member of the Development Assistance Committee. And Mr. Ri explains that Korea's achievements hold a special meaning.
Many advanced donor countries such as the US, Germany, Brazil, Australia proposed to sign MOUs with KOICA. They have money and many experts. But why did they want us to work together with as an ODA partner? They needed Korean ideas, contents, and lessons which are applicable to developing countries. Within a single generation, Korea has managed to address the problems of acute poverty, the negative legacies of its colonial history, and the destruction from the war. What would happen if Korea's experience in development were matched with the generous finding from major donors? Korea's unique experiences and the strength in development cooperation can play bridging and catalyzing role among countries.
Former ambassadors to developing countries have come together to make use of their networks and local knowledge at the Korea Global Development Consulting Center. And now many are looking to see what kind of progress the center will make in the future.
Good morning, I'm Chun Sung Cho, and it's time for Hot Clicks. First up, especially for those of you who are still recovering from the weekend, I'll start today with some hilarious photos that might lighten up your day. Recently, a photo of a lion closely resembling global singer Beyoncé has received a lot of attention on various online community websites. And following this, images of all kinds of animals that look similar to many Korean celebrities, ranging from singers, actors, to comedians, have also gone viral. Look at that serious face the dog has. They really do all look alike, don't they? Korean TV personality, well known for her comical images, Kim Na-young has recently come into the spotlight for becoming the center of many notable fashion events. Her unusual and unique sense of style was well received at various fashion shows, including Chloe, John Galliano, Yuji Yamamoto, and Sonia Rykiel, where she attended as a celebrity guest at the 2014 Spring and Summer Paris Fashion Week, which just ended last week. And she was featured on the main main pages of 10 various fashion websites like Grazia Italia, New York Magazine, Vogue Paris, Elle, Harper's Bazaar, you name it. But this wasn't her first time to appear on those notable magazines. During the 2013 Fall and Winter Paris Fashion Week, when she was there to shoot a TV program, several fashion figures noticed her unique sense of style, and images of her were featured on 4 pages of Vogue Italia. And to once again wow the public this time, there are rumors that Kim worked with a designer before she flew out to Paris, and it seems like her efforts definitely got paid off. And let's switch gears a little bit and move on to our next story. Rest stops on highways in Korea are a place where you can enjoy all kinds of meals and snacks in between your trips. The Korea Highway Corporation revealed the most commonly sold foods at these rest stops from January to September of this year. Curious to know which dish grabbed the #1 spot? Well, my initial guess was ramyeon or Korean instant noodles, but udon noodles claimed the #1 spot with some 45,000 sold on average daily. On the other hand, ramyeon ranked #3 with 31,600 sold on average per day, and #2 was hodogwaja, or the small balls of golden walnut cakes, which is a common snack in Korea. And following close to these 3 were baked potatoes and tteokbokki, or spicy Korean rice cakes, in the 4th and 5th place, respectively. And let's move on to our next story. The season of weddings is in full swing in Korea now that it's autumn, which is a popular season for tying the knot. It's common to have brides and grooms' friends perform at weddings to congratulate the couple, and a very unique duo and their performance that I'm about to show you have received a lot of likes and clicks on Facebook. When people normally think of celebratory wedding songs, they often imagine something romantic and touching. But these 2 men have totally rewritten the basis of wedding songs and ceremonies. Now they're dancing to Korean girl group Sistar song, and I must say they're really good. Thanks to their hilarious and one-of-a-kind performance, the wedding transformed into a fun and entertaining stage. It looks and sounds like the guests also enjoyed a lot, and no wonder these 2 are called the legend of wedding songs.
Pretty good moves there.
Now let's move on to our last story of the day. Now, can any one of you guess who these women might be? They look similar?
No, actually, I don't think any one of them look similar. But they do have sort of, it seems like you've met them before somewhere in another way.
Not me. Well, that might be because these are the average faces of women in different countries. And these are the final products by the University of Glasgow's experimental psychologist in Scotland, who received voluntary images of different women from 41 countries and combined them using a computer program.
All right, very beautiful, all of them actually.
And let's move on to our next slide. This is the next slide. Excuse me. This is the average woman's face of Korean women, and her face is a bit slimmer compared to the Chinese woman's face, and her features are actually slightly softer than the Japanese woman's features.
Right. I don't think I look anything like the average Korean woman there then. How did they come up with these images, I wonder?
Well, according to the researchers, they sorted out the images of women's faces in all the same size and overlapped those images using a computer program, like I said before, and they created this final product.
And it's not the first time the team conducted such a research, right? A male version was published last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, actually last year the team of the same researchers came up with the average faces of men from 24 different countries. And an online user pointed out that the photo of the average Korean men looked very similar to the Korean soccer player Park Ji-sung.
Slightly better looking.
You can actually say that this is kind of an average out of all the different faces, right? So that would be your male average. Wow,
Let me see the resemblance.
I was trying to find that out, but I don't
I'm like below average now. Thank you for that, Song-cho.
Maybe bigger eyes, maybe.
I'll open them wider, all right?
Okay, and this is all I have for you today on Hot Clicks, and I'll see you back next Monday. And back to you guys.
Thank you, Song-cho. All right, time now to check back on our Dami, who is standing by in Yongin in Gyeonggi Province. She's ready to do some harvesting, right?
Yep, that's right. Come autumn, there's chestnut picking season, and we'll see just how that's done. Dami, over to you.
I'm back reporting live from Yongin, Gyeonggi Province at a chestnut farm. Now, ever since the Joseon dynasty, Yonggi was known to be a place that was abundant of chestnuts. So, it is chestnut season, and usually they're harvested during the months of August and October, so that's exactly what I'm going to be doing today. Now, chestnuts are a popular snack as they taste good, and they're full of nutrients such as vitamin C, which is great for the skin and prevents colds. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this stick, and you kind of, and then you kind of hit, there we go. And it falls to the ground like this. Now, once you see the chestnuts fall on the ground, some are open, but some that are closed up, you kind of want to get your feet, dig your feet into it. There we go. All right. And you grab the chestnut and voila, this is it. Okay, put it in my bag. Now, usually with plants, once they sprout from the seeds, they kind of change formation. But with chestnuts, they keep their original form. So here in Korea, we usually symbolize chestnuts as devotion. So you probably always see them on top of tables during ritual ceremonies for our ancestors. Now, here's my favorite part. Here at the farm, what they provide is an experience program where once you harvest the chestnuts, you feast on them and you roast them with samgyeopsal. Okay, so, you know, it's a great thing and, you know, it looks delicious, doesn't it? Now, here at the farm, this is a great place where you can come with your family and your loved ones to experience harvesting chestnuts, so why not try it out if you haven't already? I'm Idami, Korea Today. 네, 감사합니다. 진짜 맛있어.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2013 Korean Grand Prix, which took place at the Korea International Circuit in Yeongam. Now, after Sebastian Vettel of Red Bull Racing took pole position on Saturday, never lost that lead and breezed through for his third straight Korean Grand Prix victory on Sunday. And a race filled with chaos, including Mark Webber of Red Bull Racing crashing and having his machine on fire. Teammate kept his composure and finished first as he inched closer to his fourth consecutive World Championship. Meanwhile, two Lotus drivers finished second and third as Kimi Räikkönen and Roman Grosjean made podium finishes on the day as well. Meanwhile, the 2014 Korea Grand Prix has been scheduled for April instead of the usual October date. And moving over to the K-League Classic, where FC Seoul took on Incheon United on Sunday, with both sides finishing off scoreless after 90 minutes as they split a point each. But check out our next match here. Seongnam-ira Cheonma taking on Jeju United. Of course, going into the game here now, check this out. The whistle blows and it just takes 30 seconds for the first goal to be scored as Lee Jong-won with the left foot shot drills the right side of the net as Seongnam takes an early 1-0 lead. But 4 minutes later, here comes the equalizer as An Jong-hoon finds the back of the net and already it's 1-1. But might have spoke too soon. Here we shift over to the 9th minute of the match. Holy cow, another goal. This time, Kim Dong-sup and Seongnam is up again 2-1. 3 goals being scored in the first 10 minutes of the match, but in the remaining 80 minutes, no more goals as Seongnam holds on to win this one 2-1. And now shifting gears to the 2013 World Gymnastics Championships, call him the Prince of Vaults because Yang Ak-sun just won his second consecutive gold medal in vaults. After finishing first in the preliminary round, the 21-year-old gymnast pulls off his famous Yang 1 on the first attempt, followed by the Lopez on the second attempt to score 15.533 overall. The score was good enough for a first-place finish and his second straight gold medal finish. While many expected the debut of the Yang 2, he played it safe and will showcase it in the future. And finishing things off on the ice at the 2013 Short Track World Cup, the South Korean women finished first, second, and third at the 1,000-meter event as Shim Seok-ki, Park Seung-hee, and Kim Ha-rang swept the event. Meanwhile, over on the men's side, Wee Da-shing finished first, followed by Victor An, of course, a.k.a. An Hyun-soo, finishing second, and Park Se-young earning the bronze medal for Korea. And so with all that said, that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
A first impression can make or break a date, a first date, a job interview, as well as business deals. And many people are looking for that edge, looking for that way to make that perfect first impression. But some people are actually taking it a bit step further, maybe going under the knife. Now, Audrey Young joins us to talk more about this. First impressions.
Audrey.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, it's that time of the year where graduates avidly start looking for jobs. And due to the growing competition in the job market, many are putting emphasis on the personal interviews, as that's considered the final stage of securing a job. So let's find out what that involves.
보안이 눈앞이 찌르고 입술이 붉은 게 무당기가 있어 보이긴 한데 무당될 팔자는 아니고. 어찌 내가 왕이 될 상인가?
I think first impressions are extremely important during interviews.
I think people have to search beyond their looks. A certain individual might end up having a great personality despite just his or her outward appearance.
자연스러운 미소로 네네 쉬고 90도로 면접과 함께 인사를 드리시는
90 degrees.
네.
안녕하십니까? 저는 오드리입니다.
네, 잘하셨어요. 네네. 블라우스 같은 종류는 이제 밝은 색으로 코디를 하시면 더 이제 베스트이실 것 같아요. 네네.
So apparently I'm doing everything wrong right now. My skirt is too short. I'm not wearing a collared blouse, and I should kind of be wearing a jacket so that I can look a little more formal. Apparently the dark colors are fine though, so let's see how I do well in the rest of this interview process. I definitely have a lot to learn. I've got a lot of minus points right now. Hopefully I can up my points once this consultation ends, but she's teaching me a lot right now.
I came for a consultation session to see if I could change my looks to get a good job.
눈은 크시고 코도 다시고 이쁘신데 입술 자체가 써져 있어 좀 우뚝한 인상을 주기 때문에 이제 입술을 좀 살짝 웃어보세요. 이렇게 올려주는 거거든요. 웃지 않아도 이렇게 되면은 얼마나 상냥하고 자신감 있어 보이고.
Many job seekers undergo double eyelid and nose plastic surgeries since they require the least amount of time to heal. Some people opt to lift the side of their lips, while others enhance their lips or slightly lower their eyes.
Good impressions are linked to a smiling face. If the end of your lips face upwards, you'll be able to seize a good fortune. Just look at successful figures. They all have a common denominator of having healthy energy and a smiling face.
All of us are in disbelief a little bit.
We're like, whoa, really?
Are you serious? You know?
Well, what happened to the
I don't
phrase
know.
beauty is only skin deep and all of that, right?
Exactly. Never judge a book by its cover. I mean, if you judge it by the front page, then you might get some nasty tabloid paper, right? But I mean, the fact is, it is really difficult to get jobs these days, and it seems that people are really concerned about how they look so they can make that lasting impression.
Well, according to a portal site survey that was done with 273 HR managers from different companies, 84.2% of them did say that appearances like looks and the way you dress, your attire, does matter in deciding whether they want to hire or recruit someone or not.
But when they say looks, they don't mean how big your eyes are or how pointy your nose is. I'm sure it's the overall how presentable you look.
Right, the first impression really counts. Yeah, just your expression, no blank stares, no vague expressions. I think that's what really counts. And a nice smile, of course.
Yeah, I mean, having good first impressions, of course, is important, but I don't know about the whole plastic surgery part. I don't know about that. But I guess some job seekers are becoming more desperate because the job market is becoming more competitive.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we're looking at really big companies like KT and IBK Bank, for example. KT announced that it was only going to hire 300 new employees, but they received well over 45,000 applications, and that's a 150-to-1 ratio in competition. We're looking at IBK Bank, who said they're only going to hire 220 employees, new recruits, and they had over 20,000 applicants, and that's a 95-to-1 ratio. So it's a huge job competition right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
And now, like Hyung-kyung said, they want that competitive edge over others, and maybe they think it's the physical appearance that will add to that. But I say go study some more vocabulary.
Exactly.
Yes. Right.
That's
Pick
what
up
we want to
another
advocate.
book if you have to.
Well, I would say learning the proper people skills, you know? I mean, this experience of dealing with people and meeting people first and making a first impression, that comes from, it's a skill that you develop over time of a lot of social activity, right?
That's
That
right.
might help you a lot more than, I don't know, eyebrow
Then we
implants.
sound like old parts. We're sitting here being all judgmental. But I guess if you're that desperate to get a job, then you have to do what you have to do, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, people are taking courses. I mean, people are attending a lot of hagwons, right? For vocal training, pronunciation. And this also helps you to boost your confidence in the interview process.
Right.
I think you just said the key word right there.
Yeah, who are we to say, right? I mean, we are not in the job market right
We're
now.
here.
So
We're on
yes,
this
we are here on the couch.
We have a
so
job,
maybe.
yes.
That's why we have to
those
stick
are
to it.
necessary, maybe.
All right, well, for the job seekers out there, smile. And that's really, it doesn't cost you a thing. It'll get you a long way. So that's one idea. But thank you, Audrey, for this very interesting but confusing story at the same time.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the end of this edition of Korea Today on a slightly confused note, I suppose, amongst ourselves. But who are we to say?
Exactly. Job seekers out there, remember, smile, be confident, and say hello. That might be the edge that you need. We'll see you back here tomorrow.